Hey everybody, it's Charles, your hobby hero, and today Ravensburger has dropped some huge news with the official Set 3 reveal, along with some additional details about that set. We're going to be taking a look at what they've announced, kind of talk about what we do know, and speculate about some of the things that we don't know for sure. But before we get started, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button down in the bottom corner. I do appreciate it. I do put out regular content about the hobbies that I love the most, with this channel being dedicated to the card games that I play. Now, if you don't follow Ravensburger on Twitter, today they announced on Twitter the name for the third set, along with some information previously unknown to that set. We'll take a look at the actual announcement here. So today we are unveiling Into the Inklands. This new set includes location cards that add a twist to gameplay. Disney properties like DuckTales, Tailspin, and Treasure Planet add to the fun. Available at LGS on February 23 and mass retail on March 8th. So a few things to unpack there. We have an official release date now, which we didn't know exactly. We knew it was going to be towards the end of first quarter of next year, but now we have an official date for release, which is exciting. We can start planning release day events to kind of build up the hype there. A lot of properties that we saw in these, DuckTales and Tailspin, we had no idea about. We knew Treasure Planet was coming due to some of the leaks that we've had before, and we had one Treasure Planet card with John Silver in set 1, so not a completely new IP, but those two were very surprising. I did not think we would get into any of the television series for quite some time, with these being focused predominantly around the movie IPs that Disney had. So excited to see that. If you're not familiar with those particular properties, we can take a look at some of the characters that we could expect to see from the series. In DuckTales, some of the more predominant characters that we could expect to see would be cards like Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Launchpad McQuack, and Scrooge McDuck, among many others. And it is also important to note, and I'll be curious to see if this is going to be based off of like the late 1980s series or the more recent 2017 series. It shouldn't affect a lot since most of the artwork is standardized, but could have some drastic differences in the illustration of a few of these characters. Now with Tailspin, we've seen a number of the characters from Tailspin before, as a lot of them come from the Jungle Book series, with the series focusing around Baloo. Other characters we might see would be someone like Wildcat, possibly, the Cunninghams, Kit Cloud Kicker, and possibly even Don Carnage. And hopefully we have some other IPs that they haven't announced as of yet that we haven't seen up to this point in time. The other big announcement was going to be the locations. Now, due to the spoilers that came out around the release of Set 2, we already knew that locations were going to be a thing just due to some of the wording on some of the cards that were spoiled. However, now we have our first look at one of these locations and what they may entail, and that location is the Forbidden Mountain. Now we'll go over what we do know for sure, and then we'll go over my speculations on how these cards may actually interact and some of the possibilities for these cards in the game. Forbidden Mountain is a cost 2. They've kept the same ink cost symbol on here, this one being an inkable one. I assume they have uninkable ones as well. We have a 6 down here on this one with the same symbol as the willpower symbol that is on characters, so I'm going to assume that it's going to correlate some way to the toughness of that character. We have an unknown designation over here. It is a 1 for this particular card, and another symbol down here that we don't know exactly. It appears to be very similar to the questing or ink symbol. It's just kind of imposed the filled in area versus the white area, so I would assume it has something to do with lore. So the only other thing that we do know for sure is that there is a cost associated with moving to a location. One of the cards that was spoiled in the other release did mention reducing that cost. It is being speculated that this number here on the left-hand side is going to be the cost to move to a location. In this scenario, it would take 1 ink to move a character to this scenario. I would assume, this has not been confirmed, that this is going to be a cost per character and not just a cost to activate like a moving phase. Like you could pay 1 and then move any number of characters over that you could. I don't think that that'll be the case. I think you will have to pay an ink for each character that you want to move. Now that is the extent of what we know. We know characters can move to these locations. We know that you play these locations into play. And we know that they're going to have a cost to move, and they are going to have a cost to play, and that they have a willpower stat. Now, so that is the extent of what we do know currently. Now, we don't know a lot when it comes to these locations. For example, I don't know if we're going to be able to move to our opponent's locations, or if you can only move characters that you own to your own locations, and that provides some benefit. What is the willpower for the location mean? Does that mean that your opponent can destroy your locations by challenging the location for that amount of damage? If so, what happens when the location's destroyed? So there's a lot of things, a lot of questions that we don't know, that nothing has been confirmed as of yet. How I imagine this will work is it will allow your characters to move to these locations to receive some kind of benefit if they are occupied. For example, on the Lonely Mountain, if you have a character there, at the end of your turn, maybe it generates that 1 lore that we see down at the bottom. And then your opponent would need to either remove the character that is at that location to turn off the effect, or challenge the location to destroy the location so that you lose the effect. And I imagine they're going to work somewhat similarly to that. Now, this particular location has no other ability other than that 1 ink symbol, so we could see other abilities being worked into their effects, such as if there are characters at this location, they have ward or something to those effect, or resist, things like that. And we're going to need to see some impactful abilities for this mechanic to really work itself into the meta. We have a very defined and streamlined playstyle right now, and to add an entirely new kind of card effect that's going to take up deck space, design space, and all that other stuff, it's going to need to be impactful, or else these cards will be fun or cute, etc. Might have some fringe playability, but most people are probably going to stick to kind of like the meat and potatoes of a deck. Paying 1 to get a character at this location is going to mess up the curve of a lot of decks, especially after you already paid 2 to get it into play. You're talking about a 3 ink investment, as well as having a character to occupy this location just to generate that 1 lore per turn. And if the location can be challenged normally, that opens up the liability for that as well. Like in this example, like a Maui would be able to take this card out in a single turn, if that is all the more difficult they are to get rid of. I hope for the sake of the mechanic that it's going to have some real impact on the meta, shake some things up, force some players to make some different design choices in their deck building. But we don't know for sure right now how it's going to function, and until we do, that's going to leave a lot of questions up in the air. But I'm still very excited for the next set. Let me know what character you guys are most excited to see from the next set down in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, Hobby Hero